Hey everybody, I'm Anthony,
I'm Jordan.
and this is Vader's fourth online lesson. Hey to everybody who's returning and who've been following our lessons the past couple of weeks. And to those who are new, we've been covering the basics of how to play guitar, everything from the parts of the guitar, how to read chord charts and play chords, easy versions as well, to how to read scale diagrams and play scales. Today we're going to look at how to read guitar tab and sort of bring what we've learned together into one lesson. So if this is your first time with our lessons, feel free to follow along, even if you're a little bit lost at first. We will explain things fairly in depth, and you can always go and look at our previous live online lessons. So we're going to dive right into this today, starting with tab.
All right, so guitar tab, what is it? It is a way that we can write out different songs, different exercises, different skills that we can play on the guitar in kind of a simplified format that doesn't require any sort of musical notation or any sort of skill like that to read it. So we're going to go over how to read it and how to play it from there. So I'm actually going to start down here and then make our way up here. So right here is our example of tab. The way the strings are laid out are kind of similar to the way we're doing our chord charts. So we have our low E, or our top string here, on the bottom. And then so we're going to go E, A, E, G, B, and then there's our high E right there. All right. So these lines going left and right representing our strings. And then we use numbers rather than notes or notation to represent the fret we're going to play. So for example, a 0 is just going to represent an open note, and a 1 would represent the first fret. So in this case, I have a low E, 0 is open, and then low E, 1 is first fret, right there. So now, if we look up to the chart on the top here, we're going to read this from left to right. So we're going to go this way. And we're just going to follow along on our tab here to start, and then we'll kind of break it down from there. So on our low E starting, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's first fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So that is that first section there. Then we'd move on to here. So here's our A string. We have the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we'll go to our A. Same thing, 2, 3, 4. We'll go on to the next string. So here's our D. Same idea. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next string, G. 1, 2, 3, 4. B string. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then at the very top here, we have our high E. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you might recognize this from last lesson. This is just our 4-finger warm-up displayed on tab, right? So we just went through all of that, and you'll notice that Anthony and I used the 4 fingers kind of locked into each fret individually as we did that, kind of like we talked about last time. So we have these lines here, and those are representing the beats in our measure. So we talked last time about quarter notes, eighth notes. So this is going to be 1 measure, 2 measures, 3 measures. Just a note, you might not see this if you go on a website like Ultimate Guitar or anything like that. They may not display these measure lines, but the idea is still there, where you're just going to read left to right and follow the numbers as we go. Right? So that's kind of the basic introduction. We're going to go into a little bit more detail now. There we go. So here we have the C major chord and the easy C chord laid out in tab version. So we'll start with the easy one, and then we'll do the more complicated one here. So just starting from here up, we're not going to play anything on these 3 strings here. So the E, A, D, completely ignored. We have our G is going to be open. We're going to put our first finger on the first fret of the B string, and then we're not going to put anything on the high E. We're just going to have an open note there, right? So I am on number 1 B, and I just play those bottom 3 strings. And there's that easy C chord. So you'll notice with chords in tab, they're actually stacked, right? Not like before or down here where we have it going left to right. They're stacked all on top of each other. So when we look at the C major, you can do this however you like. I like to go this way. Some people like to look at it this way and go up. So I'm not going to have anything on my high E, so that one's going to stay open. On my B string, I'm going to be on the first fret using my first finger. I'm going to have nothing on my G, but we're still going to play it because it does have that 0 there. We're going to take our second finger. We'll put it on the second fret of the D, and then our third finger goes on that A, and we play those 5 strings. So again, we're ignoring this string entirely with this chord. And like I said before, they're stacked like this, and whenever that open 0 is still there, you're still going to strum that string. You're going to play through that chord. You're just not going to put any fingers there. And don't get the numbers confused with what we were talking about with the chord charts, where certain numbers represent the fingers you're going to use. Because in this case, it actually worked out that we used finger 1, 2, and 3 on this C, but that's not the case for all of them. And we'll kind of see that as we go through here as well. So looking at our next example here, we have that E minor pentatonic scale that we talked about last time, and then here it is in tab form. So following the same pattern we looked at last time, we're going open 3, open 2, open 2, open 2, open 3, open 3. So we'll play through that for you now. We got open 3, open 2, open 2, open 2, open 3, open 3. Right.
Yeah. So if you ever want to play this backwards, you can read it backwards. Normally it would be written the opposite way, but if you want to descend, you would just play this backwards. And in the PDF file that we are going to be uploading, you'll see the example written the other way.
It's available now in the comments.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Chris just mentioned to me, if you didn't hear him on the microphone, that it is in the comments section. So
the comments are acting a little glitchy for some reason, so they look like they're there. So,
All right.
So
yeah.
they should be there for you.
All right, so we'll go into our next page here. So here we have the song Back in Black by AC/DC written out in tab form. So we have our chords here, then we have our little riff at the end, and then there's another riff down here. So we're going to break this down, go through it for you guys. So we're going to start just piece by piece. We have this guy here. So before even telling you what it is, some of you may recognize it, but we're playing a chord there, right? Because we have stacked numbers that are going up and down, and we have opens, and we have numbers. So we're going to be playing all 6 strings to start. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to have no fingers on that low E, but we are going to be playing through it. We're going to have a finger on the second fret of the A, and we're going to have a finger on the second fret of the D, and then we have no fingers on those ones, but we're still strumming through it. So then there's our E minor, and we're just going to E minor. All right. Now here we have another chord, and you'll see that we have 3 of this exact same kind of setup right beside each other. So that represents that we're going to be playing that chord 3 times, all right? So we'll build this one. So we have nothing on that D string. We have a finger on the second fret of the G. We have a finger on the third fret of the B, and we have a finger on the second fret of the high E. And that's that D chord. And we're going to play that one 3 times. All right, so I'm just going to run back the parts we played already so you can kind of hear how it's supposed to sound. So we got our E minor for 1, D for 3, and then we have another chord here, and we're following that same idea. We're going to be playing it 3 times because it's 3 times written out, stacked, so it's a chord. We're going to play this open A. We're not going to have any fingers on it, and then we're going 2, 2, 2, and open. So that's 2 on the D, 2 on the G, 2 on the B, and open. And 3 times. All right, so we'll play that back for you one more time. So we had E minor D for 3, A for 3. So you can probably hear how that's starting to kind of sound like that intro part to Back in Black. But what about that little riff at the end that everybody loves so much? Well, that's what we have right here. And what you might actually notice is that this is our E minor pentatonic scale just played up backwards, and that's how they're getting that effect. So we're going to go 3 open, 3 open, 3 2 open. So we're going high E to B to G. So I have 3 open, high E, 3 open on the B, 3 2 open on the G. All right, so we'll play that again a little bit faster here for you. All right, now I'm going to put this piece and this piece together for you. So I have E minor once, D for 3, A for 3, then our little riff. All right. Now, for any of you that are familiar with the song, you know that he doesn't just do that over and over again. There's a little bit of a second variation after he comes out of that riff. So we're going to go E, D, 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 A, ba da ba da ba da da. Then we're going to go E, D, 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 A, and then we're going to play this part down here. That's the really, really iconic part in there. So that part you can see here, we're playing everything on the low E. We're going to go 7 4, 7 5, 7 6, 7 7. So that is like so. All right. So one more time for you. 7 4, 7 5, 7 6, 7 7. All right. So we'll play through the whole thing for you now, nice and slow, so you can hear how it's supposed to sound. So again, we have E minor for 1, D for 3, A for 3, first riff. Then we go back to this part here. So we have E for 1, D for 3, A for 3. Second riff on the bottom here. So one thing I want to note, with this one right here, this 7 on the low E that's a B note, all right? I can also get that right there on the 2nd fret of the A. So what you might see if you're looking at tabs online, because we talked about earlier in lessons that a lot of tabs are user submitted, so there may be some differences in the way that they look, but because this note's a B, I could, in theory, substitute all these 7s here for 2s on the B, and in that case it would be. All right. So if you see something that looks a little bit different, maybe you're looking at some different material for the same song. That just goes to show how we can find all these different notes on the guitar, and it might not be the way you play it, but there's other options. The options are over there, but this is the easiest way to do it for all you learning out there. So.
One other thing to note too, if you look up here at the full chord versions, if you take away the pink highlighted notes, you can play just a simple power chord version of it. Should be a little bit more akin to the sort of rock of the song itself.
What's a power chord, guys?
Power chord is a first note and a fifth note. Basically, what it is there's a note that makes, and some music theorists might cringe at the analogy. There's a note that makes a chord sort of happy sometimes or sad.
So your majors or your minors.
Basically, yeah. Like if you take an E major, it's happy sounding, right? And if you take that one note that is called a third note and you flatten it, then all of a sudden it becomes sad. But if you take out that note altogether, then you're left with only 2 different notes. Whether they, in this case, it's an E, a B, and then an octave higher of the E here. You end up with what's called a power chord. And power chords are basically the foundation for rock music.
Show me
And
3 power chords right now. See how easy that is? That's the beauty of power chords, right?
Power
Yeah.
chord for life.
We'll get more power chords.
Yeah, we can definitely do it. We could even do a whole thing on power chords and how to move them around and stuff. Of course, another thing to note is that this is a simplified version of the high lick in Back in Black. In the actual version, there's some little tricks that are used. There are hammer-ons and pull-offs and bends and even slides down from the 7 at the end. And those are tricks that we'll definitely be looking at covering in a future lesson. And they're tricks that even if we cover it in a lesson, there's something that you'll be refining for many, many years to come as you develop your technique on guitar.
Cool. One person did ask for a close-up of the fingers, like just the riff, basically a little bit close-up. So I don't know if one of you guys can come a little closer to the camera. And
For sure.
Got some room on there?
I might have some room on the cable here. Okay, so just for the high riff there.
well, just I think maybe just for the whole.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get a good angle there. How's that?
I'll just hold it down. Right there. Perfect.
All right. So I have my E minor, D, A. How'd that work for you guys?
Yeah, right on. Okay, perfect. You guys keep going. I'm just scanning questions unless you guys are ready.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we can take questions.
Yeah, is there anything you guys need us to go over again?
One question somebody had about tab is the way that it's written is there seems to be some confusion of what was on the bottom, the little E or the high E.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Yeah.
Yes. A good way to remember, it's the low E on the bottom and the high E on the top, and to remember which is which, because some people mix them up. The big E is on the bottom, so big on the bottom, big bottom, and the tiny E is on the top, tiny top. It's a good way to remember it, big bottom, tiny top. Another way to think of it is when you're actually looking at the page, if you lay your guitar sort of flat on a page, just from where you'd normally be holding it, it just sort of, the strings will line up with the lines on the tab. And that's a good way to help you sort of visually recognize where you are and where the notes are on there.
Because I can see how it would seem like the opposite of that. You're looking at it and your low E is on the top of your guitar, but at the bottom of the. But that's how.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
goes up, right?
Some people think of it almost like a mirror, but it's not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool, that's perfect. Yeah. Do you have any other finger exercise? That stretching was a little bit much for I think some folks. You know, on that bottom riff there.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
any other finger stretching or finger exercises that help with that kind of thing?
Got tips for that as well. Is you don't need to keep your fingers planted in one place when you're playing them, so you don't need to necessarily stretch your pinky and have your index finger right ready for it. So what you can do is you can actually like keep your finger sort of floating in air, and when you're done with that note, quickly switch to the other note. That'll save you from having to actually make that full stretch. But other things that you can do if you do want to sort of work on your stretching your fingers across the fretboard is practicing. If you find 4 frets a little tricky down here, practicing playing 4 frets in a row on a higher set of frets, like as high as you can reach on the guitar, because the frets are narrower, so you can actually work on it. So you could take that 4-finger warm-up that was on the first page. I'll even go back to it here. You can take this 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could play it, say, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 10, 11, 12, 13, or sorry, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? You can play way up here, and then move it down a half a step. So you're just moving it down one fret and practice it down there and keep going down until you find it a little bit more difficult to play, just to where it's comfortable enough. But you feel a little bit of a stretch. Then you can work on it in that area just to sort of get your fingers going. And another thing is, you might not think of this, but there are things you can do without the guitar to help you with your guitar playing. And this is one I've been doing for many years. You can do it while you're watching Netflix if you want. Is basically I sit there and I'll just sort of stretch between my fingers, just sort of opening them up. You can do it on both hands too, just to keep them even. Just sort of basically spreading them between each finger, almost like you're trying to do like Spock's Vulcan greeting, live long and prosper. Except you're sort of just getting a little bit of a stretch in between your fingers, and that'll sort of help. Another thing too is you can take them back. Don't try to crack them though. Just try to get them stretching so that you feel a bit of a stretch in your muscles. Cracking them isn't necessarily good for them, but don't worry if you are doing it and then you hear a crack, unless it's very painful. Then worry about it. But you can, basically stretch out your fingers. And another one too is my thumb sometimes used to cramp in here, so I used to basically just sort of take my hand like I'm holding a platter and just sort of rest my other hand on it. You don't want to push it, but just rest it on there, so that you might feel that you have a bit of a stretch in here, a bit of a burn. And just hold it for like 15-20 seconds. And that'll really help warm up too. You can also shake your hands out to get blood flow, and improving your circulation will also help with your stretching as well. But you can really warm your fingers up. You could get like a stress ball even, and just squeezing that a little bit too to build up like finger strength and stuff. Just anything that promotes blood flow, and then do your stretches after. It's kind of like an athlete does like physical workouts. It's like on a smaller scale, like your hand just doing little workouts and stuff. You can even get in and massage your hand too, just sort of working your fingers up, your hand up your fingers there, just to really relax them. That'll really help you when you're working on stuff. And if you ever feel cramped while you're playing, take a little bit of a break, shake your hand out, and come back to it when your hand feels better.
Yeah, warming up does. Generally, we all play better when once we've been playing for a few minutes and just warmed up, right?
So, yep, exactly, yeah.
The person was asking about playing a song, like Back in Black as an example, the tab version of it. If you're trying to learn a song, kind of what the pros and cons would be of learning it in tab versus the lyrics with the chords written above. Now, that'll be different for different types of songs, obviously, but I'll let you guys explain that.
So with songs with the chords just placed on top with the lyrics, that's really good if it's just a song where you're just going to be strumming and just chording through. One thing to keep in mind is sometimes that chord might be just shifted based on maybe how the website or wherever you may be looking has formatted it. But that's kind of where those are really nice, but they often don't show you the intricacies of like this little riff that's being played, whereas the tab will show you that. So a chorded version of Back in Black might just have our E minor, D, and A over some space and words and such, whereas the tab actually provides us with the riffs and such. So
just a more detailed way of writing it out.
Exactly.
Yeah, just to add to that too is like even the riff itself is very like precise, hitting this the E minor one time, then the D 3 times, and then that A 3 times. It'll just show you E and then D and then A, right? Rather than telling you exactly the riff that you're playing. So a lot of rock music, it's definitely easier to get a feel of exactly what you're supposed to be playing through tab. Whereas like a strumming song, like you could look up chords for Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here, and you don't necessarily have to worry about strumming it exactly the same as the song. So you can just sort of pick it up, strum a little pattern that feels right, and sing along with it, that sort of thing.
Now to take that a step further, what about tab versus traditional rotation?
Some people have different opinions on it. I mean, to me, tab is simpler to look at and understand right off the hop. It's been many self-taught guitar players' best friend, um, and it's just when it comes to notation, if you see like the high E written on staff on like sheet music, the notes written there, they have to write a separate indication to tell you which string to play it on, and if they don't, you could play it here, you could play it here, you can play it here, you can play it here, over here, the exact same note.
Yeah.
And if you have a 24th fret, you can play it on the 24th there. So you can play the exact same note that's written on there in all sorts of different places. So you kind of have to know that, and it's a little bit more to know when there are other notes written around it. You have to sort of group it in the most logical spot.
It's like you don't need a translator for tab.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Notation will provide you with the tempo and like the actual time signature of the piece you're working on, which can be quite valuable. But with tab, yeah, it's just real quick and easy to look at once you have a really good understanding. Especially if maybe you've been working on a song for a little while, just by ear maybe, and there's just like one chord that's not quite working for you. And if you have a good understanding of tab, you can open up a tab, scroll through it really quick and be like, oh, okay, that's where I missed it, and now we're off to the races. I know what's going on. Or even if it's a song you're just learning right off the hop and you're experienced with tab, you can look at it once and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I've seen lots of songs like this before. I know kind of the outline of what I'm doing. So
Yeah, there are lots of like other great resources too for learning guitar that even combine the two. I know that Ultimate Guitar, their website, they have their own program that shows you the tab and actually follows along to the rhythm, so you get a really good sense of how it's supposed to be played. Another one that I use, it's a paid program as well, called Guitar Pro. That one's really great, and Ultimate Guitar actually has a lot of guitar profiles on there as well. And in that one, you can set it so that it shows you the tab as well as the sheet music, or even the tab with what they call rhythm slashes, which basically gives you the rhythm from sheet music and puts it onto tab, which is another really cool thing.
So there's more than one way of reading music and translating it to guitar.
yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah,
and tab is probably, well, not probably, it's maybe by far the most popular for most guitar players.
For most.
yeah.
Yeah.
For guitar, tab is definitely the most popular.
Don't feel like you're doing anything wrong by looking at tab and making it easier for yourself. Work smarter, not harder. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Cool. Yeah, I'll see if there's any more questions here. If you guys want to recap or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, we can sort of go over what we talked about real quick. So basically, we went over tab. You've got your low E on the bottom, which is your biggest string, and your
bottom.
Yep, big bottom, and your high E on the top, which is the tiny top. Sometimes in professional tab, you'll see tab written right on there, so there's no confusion.
And sometimes it will say E, A, D, G, B, E here as well. And if a song's in an alternate tuning, we haven't talked about alternate tunings yet, but for example, drop C, very common metal tuning, C, G, C, F, A, D. So they'll actually lay out what the string is going to be tuned to as well.
Yeah. And then we went over 0 represents an open note. And then here's an example of a fretted note on the first fret. These are happening on the low E. So these notes you play sequentially from left to right on that low E. And you wouldn't play any other notes because there's nothing written on those strings. And in this case here, above, we had the 4-finger warm-up, playing the first fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, and then the 4th fret of the low E, and then continuing doing the same 4 frets on the A, D, the G, the B, and the E. You can play it backwards as well to descend pattern. So you just reverse it, 4, 3, 2, 1, starting from the high E, all the way down to the low E. And we laid out how a chord is written. And chord, when you play all the notes at once, is written vertically because basically you're reading left to right, but you're reading all the strings at once. So you can picture like an imaginary line going through all the strings, and every time that line hits notes, all those notes get played at once. So you coming along, you hit all of those notes at once. You're strumming the C, and then here you're strumming the easy C. In this case, you're playing a E minor pentatonic scale. You're coming along and you play the 0, then the 3, then the 0 and the 2, and the 0 and the 2, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 3, all one at a time from left to right. If they were all written on top of each other, you'd be playing all the zeros and then 3 and some weird jazz chord. Yeah. Any questions pop up in the meantime?
Nope, I think might be a good time to tell everybody how they can be entered to win the guitar.
Yes. So we've been dangling a guitar entry contest to you guys, and we'd like to let you guys know how you can enter to actually win a Fender CD60 acoustic guitar like this one with a hard case. All you have to do to enter to win is take a picture of yourself playing along and learning with us and post it and tag us in it, or alternatively you can tag somebody else who you'd like to nominate to win this, as well as faders. Make sure you tag faders and the person you want to win in the post, and that's your other way of entering. So you can enter somebody else in or yourself in. If you don't want to take a picture of yourself playing along to it, you can also take a picture of your instrument or a picture of the computer screen and just be sure to tag us in it. And then if you're nominating somebody else, tag them. So that's how you can enter to win.
Awesome. So post a picture and tag faders, or nominate somebody by tagging them and faders, and then we'll know. Awesome. Cool. Right on. Lots of people are saying that this is awesome. You're really enjoying it. So thanks, everybody. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, that's great. We're glad that everybody's enjoying this. And feel free to leave comments. And if there's anything that you really particularly like about this, or if there's anything you really want to hear about or learn about in future lessons, and if there's anything that you don't particularly like that you wonder if we could change. We'd like to hear your feedback, positive and constructive as well, so that we can continue to adapt and make these lessons more appealing to everybody.
Perfect. Cool. Posted that in there as well. So yeah, I think we got it really covered. So unless there's anything else you guys want to add.
I think we're good.
Okay, right on. So next lesson 5 will be Monday, 5:30. Sticking to the same schedule.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see you guys Monday at 5:30.
Right on.
Take care.
Have a good one.